Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to panel 2A on your schedule, entitled Fueling Freedom and Prosperity. America's hydrocarbon fuel resources, coal, oil, and natural gas, have been key to fueling your prosperity and ultimately your freedom. This is especially critical to countries like Canada that depend on a strong America for our freedom. It's not just in America that green activists are trying to convince government to close down your fossil fuels. This is happening all over the world, and unfortunately, quite successfully in places like Ontario. We have a change of government, and hopefully we'll see a reversal of some of that policy. Dr. Jay Lear, the Heartland Science Director, summed up the importance of this fight to try and stop people from closing down these very good stations when he said, "The global war against fossil fuels is in fact a war against freedom, progress, prosperity, and the poor." And of course, the war is totally unnecessary. As we'll hear in the next session, talking about carbon dioxide and climate change, you'll see that CO2 is not driving a climate crisis. And in addition, the increasing CO2 from our emissions is acting as aerial fertilizer, bringing enormous benefits to the terrestrial biosphere. Modern advances have made it so that the use of fossil fuels, coal for example, is much cleaner than it used to be. A few years ago, Mr. John Justice from the pro-coal group, Cedar Inc., took me on a tour of Kentucky where they were showing how they reclaimed the land in areas that had been surface mined for coal. The new regions, after the mining and the reclamation, was actually better than the previous state of the environment, and there was a greater biodiversity as a result. To discuss how fossil fuels are fueling our prosperity and freedom, we have three distinguished speakers here, each of whom will speak for about 15 minutes, following which we'll have a 10-minute Q&A. Our first speaker is Kathleen Harnett-White. She's the director of the Armstrong Center for Energy and Environment, the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Mrs. White is co-author with Stephen Moore of an important new book you can get on Amazon. It's called Fueling Freedom, Exposing the Mad War on Energy. Dr. Jay Lear did a nice book review on this, and he wrote this: "The book should be read by every high school student presently being bombarded with green lies. The lucid, precise, comprehensive, yet simple writing style can set the world back on a course towards energy sanity." Mrs. White will address how fossil fuels maintain the modern world. Our second speaker is Derek Hawley, president of the organization Reaching America. Reaching America addresses energy poverty and other complex social issues impacting African American communities today. Today, Mr. Hawley will be addressing energy poverty policies that harm minorities and drive income inequality. Our final speaker in this session will be U.S. Representative Clay Higgins. Captain Higgins represents Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District, the region just to the west of New Orleans, if you look at the map. He's a member of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, and House Committee on Homeland Security. Representative Higgins will address fossil fuels and economic growth. And I forgot to press the start button for the timer. Anyway, just finishing off on the last paragraph here. In Matthew Sinclair's 2011 book, Let Them Eat Carbon, The Price of Failing Carbon Change Policies and How Governments and Big Business Profit from Them, he illustrated the impact of fossil fuels on our lives. He describes how the French economist Émile Levasseur said that if one steam horsepower is taken as the equivalent of the work of 21 men, then in 1840, France's industry had the equivalent of 1 million new workers due to steam power. By 1885 to 1887, it was 98 million. Now, if you take his calculations and you apply it to today's world, here's what you get. He found that in 2009, he wrote this: Britain's energy consumption was such that it was the equivalent of the labor of 97 men working continuously to serve each Briton. 97 people would be better to say. We see this sort of phenomena occurring across the world, a world that is 80% driven by fossil fuels. We must not let green activists convince society to turn it off. So with that, I pass the lectern over to Mrs. White, starting right now.